Interest rates are starting to fall in the US and setting the stage for noteworthy economic reaction. But is the whole story being told when it comes to housing? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the ripple effects of these falling interest rates, specifically their impact on the housing market and how these could change and affect your decision to buy or sell in 2024 or 2025. We're going to uncover what top experts are forecasting, including some surprising predictions that reveal unexpected twists in the housing market that many are not talking about. Welcome back. My name is Mitch, your trusted real estate advisor. If you're looking to make a move and need expert on your side, I've got you covered. I'm connected with top agents across the country. So if you need professional guidance, whether you're moving here locally in Charlotte or anywhere in the US, just click the link below, fill out the simple form that you see here on your screen, and I look forward to helping you out. Let's jump right in. The Federal Reserve has recently signaled a shift from cutting the federal funds rate, a move that we haven't seen in years. Now, this pivot from restrictive monetary policy designed to curb inflation, which reached 40-year highs, has caught national and, of course, global attention. But what does this mean for the housing market? And, of course, more importantly, what does this mean for you? So to shed some light on all this, I want you to listen to some key segments from Chair Powell's recent remarks about the U.S. housing market, and I want you to pay close attention.
The housing market, it's hard to game that out. The housing market is in part frozen because of lock-in with low rates. People don't want to sell their home, so because they have a very low mortgage, it'd be quite expensive to refinance. As rates come down, people will start to move more, and that's probably beginning to happen already. But remember, when that happens, you've got a seller, but you've also got a new buyer in many cases. So it's not obvious how much additional demand that would make.
Now let's break down that first segment of his remarks. Recent reports indicate that approximately 86% of outstanding mortgage balances in this country are locked in at interest rates below 6%. These historically low rates that had a significant impact on the housing market, specifically on the lack of available homes and the number of transactions over the past couple of years. Now, when these rates peaked recently, it caused a severe tightening in the housing market. Homeowners who refinanced during the low rate periods found themselves locked in, hesitant to sell and give up their advantageous mortgage rates. This lock-in effect has put a substantial dent in the available housing supply we currently have. However, as interest rates begin to fall, we may start to see what we call an unthawing of these lock-in effect mortgages. People will feel more comfortable moving, leading to an increase in potential listings. But here's the catch. For every seller, there needs to be a buyer. So will this really create increase in available supply? And really, is supply the underlying problem? Let's hear what Chair Powell says next.
The real issue with housing is that we have had and are on track to continue to have not enough housing. And so it's going to be challenging. It's hard to zone lots that are in places where people want to live. It's all of the aspects of housing are more and more difficult. And where are we going to get the supply? And this is not something that the Fed can really fix. But I think as we normalize rates, you'll see the housing market normalize. And ultimately, by getting inflation broadly down and getting those rates normalized and getting the housing cycle normalized, that's the best thing we can do for householders. And then the supply question will have to be dealt with by the market and also by government.
Now, Chair Powell specifically mentioned the supply problem cannot be fixed by the Fed. That needs to be handled by the market and the government. So how did this supply problem even begin, and why is it such a significant issue now? Let's rewind back to 2008. Prior to the financial crisis, the country was experiencing a building boom. Builders were rapidly constructing homes, many on speculation, and they were quickly sold as the demand was building. However, when the crisis unfolded, the combination of overbuilt inventory and a steep drop in demand led to one of the largest housing surpluses we've ever seen in the United States. If you look at this chart, you'll notice that despite a smaller US population at the time, housing supply skyrocketed to over 4 million available homes. Fast forward to 2020 to 2022, and you'll see a steep decline in inventory even as the US population continued to grow. Now, many builders were wiped out in 2008, going bankrupt and exiting the industry. For the next decade, home building crawled at a snail pace as the industry recovered from this incredible crisis. Now, meanwhile, the US population didn't stop growing and the demand for housing was silently building. Then came 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, an epic event that paralyzed the world's economy and supply chains. The Fed reacted aggressively to prop up the US economy, injected an exorbitant amount of money into the system. This led to what we call runaway inflation, fueled by immediate spikes in demand chasing fewer goods due to the limping supply chains. One area hit hard by inflation was, of course, housing. Home prices soared as demand far outpaced supply, exacerbating the existing supply problem. But there's more to the story. Looking ahead, top economic experts are making significant predictions that could further impact the housing market. Goldman Sachs, a leading global investment bank, has revised its Fed forecast, and here's what it is. They now expect the Federal Reserve to accelerate the pace of interest rate cuts this year and going into next. According to Goldman Sachs economic research, they anticipate a longer string of consecutive 25 basis point cuts starting from November 2024 through June of 2025. This would bring the federal funds rate down to their terminal rate forecast of 3.25 to 3.5. This is a shift from their previous expectations of consecutive cuts this year, followed by quarterly cuts next year. So what does this really mean for the housing market? Well, an accelerated pace of rate cuts could lead to lower mortgage rates and sooner than previously anticipated. However, this might encourage more homeowners to sell, easing the lock-in effect we've been discussing. And it also could make home buying more affordable for many people, potentially increasing demand even further. However, without significant increase of housing supply, this surge in demand could drive home prices even higher. Now, we're faced with a scenario where falling interest rates stimulates the market, but the underlying supply issues remain unaddressed. This ties back to Chair Powell's point. The supply problem can't be fixed by monetary policy alone. It requires action from the open market and the government to increase the housing inventory available in the United States. Until then, we might see intensified competition for available homes, further complicating these market dynamics. So bringing these three stories together, we know this. The Fed's recent and projected interest rate cuts could stimulate movement in the housing market, but we may not solve the underlying issues. Goldman Sachs predicts an accelerated pace of cuts, potentially lowering rates sooner than expected. Also, the lock-in effect has kept homeowners from selling, tightening supply even as demand remains high. Falling interest rates might unfreeze this effect, but will supply keep up? And lastly, historical underbuilding since the 2008 crisis has led to a chronic shortage of homes, a problem intensified by recent economic events. Without increased construction, supply will remain constrained. All these factors converge to create a unique and complex housing market. Lower interest rates might encourage some homeowners to sell and more buyers to enter the market. But without addressing the fundamental supply issues, the market remains challenging. However, it's very important to note that the housing shortage affects each real estate market differently. So the housing supply shortage is heavily dependent on location. For example, we don't see the same type of shortage here in Charlotte as you may find in Texas, Los Angeles, or Florida. Each market has its own dynamics and challenges which needs to be considered in this analysis. My advice to you is to, of course, work with an experienced professional to help you navigate these, because the supply problem in the United States will certainly impact your decision to buy and sell in 2024 and 2025. So the housing market's in a pivotal point. Interest rates are falling and experts predict that they'll drop even further, but the underlying supply issues will continue to persist Understanding these interplays between these factors is key to making informed decisions. If you found this information valuable, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so more people like you can watch this content. And if you're ready to make your next move, do not hesitate to reach out. All my information is below the screen in a link. Fill out the simple form and I will certainly be in touch. But I appreciate you turning in today, and I'll talk to you next week.